What if you had the power to turn your online influence and the creativity that lives inside you into a real business and live a life of freedom? I'm Kristen Bousquet, and I've been a full time creator for over 3 years, and I've brought in over $350,000 from sponsored posts and content creation collaborations with brands so far. Social Scoop is the podcast where we teach you, the entrepreneurial creator, to turn your online influence into a profitable, self sustaining business. Let's dive right in. All right, guys, I'm so excited for today's episode. We have a friend of mine here who we have been talking online for such a long time. This is actually the first time we're talking, like, quote, face to face. So, Chesko, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, okay, we first need to like talk about your name and your handle and all of this because there's maybe a little confusion for people that follow you in different places and see your handle in different places. So, give us the rundown of like who you are and what you
Well, in real life, I'm a
do.
I'm a tenured college professor. No, had no plans on ever doing anything like this on social media. It just kind of happened by accident. Chesko was originally given to me back when I was a speech and debate competitor. When people, I have a very common first name, and everyone was like, "No, that's boring," and so they took a part of my name and mushed it together, and then it just accidentally became my nickname. And then I was a touring slam poet for a long time, and that was my stage name with that, and so that kind of just stuck as my name that most people refer to me as, unless I'm their
Yeah.
teacher.
Right, that's true.
Mm.
So, what is it that you do on social media? Like, I guess this is actually a really interesting question. Like, how do you categorize yourself? Because what you do is not like the typical quote influencer. Like, you're definitely more of a creator.
Yeah, it's that's the hardest question because people ask me that all the time, and I still don't really have an answer. Like I'm
Yeah.
nice, I guess. I'm like I try to uh give my perspective on the world in a way that will make it a little bit less toxic.
That's
I
fair.
guess that's the easiest way to put it. But I mean my stuff, you've seen my stuff. It's all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, I think you are one of those like it's almost like sometimes creators fall into two different categories. Like they have a very specific niche, fashion, beauty, home decor, whatever it is. Like you know them for their niche, but then there are also creators who like by their personality, by
Mhm.
like who they are and their opinions. And I feel like you definitely fall into that category. Like you're able to talk about so many different things, but it's just like all your perspective, right?
Right, and I think that's you kinda have to choose, is your niche going to be your subject matter, or is your niche gonna be you? And
Right.
and my original plan was to just make teaching content. I stuck with that for about a month, and then got very bored because I was
Yeah.
sitting it was beginning in the middle of the pandemic. I'm sitting in my bedroom all day, every day, and, I was like, "There's only so much I feel like talking about," and then I just started, making random videos
Yeah.
online just about my opinions on things, and here we are.
Yeah. So, okay, I want to talk a little bit about kind of like where you started and where you are now because you've definitely had like a lot of changes and I think making some of these changes have definitely like brought you to where you are today. So, you started playing around with teaching content and then like how did it kind of progress from there?
Well, I mean, you could even go way further back because I technically the first time I went viral was 2009.
Oh, yes,
Like
I
back
remember
when,
you
yeah,
telling me.
I did a like I started making random blogging videos online once again just to see what it was like.
Yeah.
And then I made a video that got 14 people fired.
Good
And I was
times.
like, yeah, they're okay. I'm friends with them all still. They don't hold
That's good.
grudges about it. It was a terrible company. But I was like, I'm done. No social media, no content creation. I'm done making videos. And then the pandemic obviously hit, and I needed something to keep from just losing my mind, sitting alone in a bedroom for 8 hours a day grading
Literally.
speeches. And so, yeah, so I started making this stuff that I thought other teachers would like. And then, I'm sitting in there, and I'm seeing all these terrible things being said by some very toxic people, and I felt like maybe people would appreciate my perspective on
Yeah.
what they had to say. And so it was the combination of that, and then I just start telling stories about my family and about my kids, and it just became this smorgasbord of everything wrapped into one.
Yeah. And you started on TikTok, am I right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what was it like? Like, did you decide to get on Instagram at a certain point
Mm.
because TikTok was like having a lot of success, or did you already kind of like start posting things there and it was like a slow start on Instagram? Like, how did you kind of get across all platforms? 'Cause I know you're on YouTube now too.
Right. So I started on TikTok, obviously, just doing that, and I had an Instagram page for my photography hobby, and that was what I was. So I was already posting on there. I had like 3,000 followers
Yeah.
or so, and so I started just posting my reels on the reels page on Instagram in hopes that maybe it would bring people to my photography. As it turns out, nobody really cared about my photography, at least. And I remember I actually reached out to you
Yeah.
at that point, I really early on, and I was like, "Why do you think I'm not getting followers? Like I'm not getting them
Right.
on like the way I'm getting them on TikTok?" And you said that people have no idea what they're looking at. They see my video that was talking about my kids or
Yeah.
this toxic dating coach, and then they go to my page and they'd see random photos of people in cosplay. Uh, and like, why would you follow that? Like,
There's a
there's no
disconnect.
connection there. Yeah. And so yeah, but I did so, but that I realized at that point,
Yeah.
there's something here that people are enjoying or appreciating, and I might as well just make me my brand. And I don't like being on camera, and that's the weirdest thing. I don't like looking at myself.
Right.
That was why I was a photographer, so I could put other people in front of the lens. But then I was like, just roll with it. There's only so many times these random opportunities
Yeah.
happen, and so yeah, so I just kind of changed my page entirely from photography to just being my reels,
Yeah.
and it just kind of took off from there.
So you have all three of these platforms that you're very active on.
Mhm.
I'm curious, how do you manage all of it? Like, is most of it like you're creating one video that you're cross posting a lot of, across a lot
Mhm.
of platforms, or are you creating fresh content for each platform?
It's a little of both, right? And it's
Yeah.
kind of like the idea that I don't like to look at certain content as repurposed content because it's
Right.
it's just content, right? It's content that I'm creating for all three platforms.
Right.
But I think the original content for each platform kind of goes with my strategy for growth on each platform, being a little bit different about like at least, or it's more so I listen to the community on that platform and try to respond to what they want. So
Yeah.
for TikTok, I just post everything off the top of my head. It's stories. It's just literally I don't script any of my content. I just kind of pick up my phone, record a take, and post it to the world. And if it hits, it hits. If it doesn't, it
Right.
doesn't. I think TikTok's very forgiving of bad content when it happens. Like the algorithm isn't as punishing when you have a video that just flops.
That's true.
Uh,
Yeah.
Versus, and then with Instagram, I think the community aspect of it was way more important, and so the stories became my original content over there. So I did a lot of things like my bad advice Wednesdays, where people would give me situations in their life, and I would just give them bad advice, or like I had hype up Mondays at one point. I had
Yeah.
FU Fridays, where people were just ranting anonymously about people in their life. And that was a lot of fun because it was
Right.
just for that community. And so, and I would try repurposing that and posting it on TikTok, and it would always fail. So it just became the stuff that I post on Instagram, and so they got their own little thing there. And then YouTube is a kind of a combination of both
Okay.
of them, where I usually have a lot to say about the videos I respond to, and I know anytime I do over a minute on TikTok, it almost always bombs, with very rare
Interesting.
occasions. That I think because people don't follow me for long content there,
Yeah.
and so I kind of just record my long rants now that are 2-3 minutes long, and that's my YouTube content, my long form on
Okay.
YouTube, and then I cut that down to a 1 minute and put that for TikTok and Instagram.
Very smart. So it's almost like you're creating, this one piece that you're able to use in so many different ways. And that's kind of the
Right.
beauty of long form content. It's like,
Hmm.
obviously, I think a lot of us at this point are seeing like YouTube is almost having like this resurgence. I don't know that it ever
Hmm.
like went away
Right.
necessarily, but there were other things to focus on with TikTok coming out and all of that. But I think a lot of people now are, coming back to YouTube and with this fun that they're working on for next year and
Hmm.
all of this. So I definitely think YouTube's worth getting into, but it's cool that you can
Hmm.
create that YouTube video, but you're also creating content for all the other platforms kind of at the same time,
Hmm.
which makes
And
things
I've
so much
noticed
more sustainable.
Right, and my audiences are completely different on all three,
Yeah.
too. It's interesting 'cause I even pulled my Instagram audience once and just to find out how many of them follow me on TikTok and YouTube,
Yeah.
and 95% of them were just Instagram. So
Oh,
it's just these are all different people, different and so it's
yeah.
not like I'm repeating myself on different platforms, it's just new people seeing that stuff.
Right. And I mean, that's always important too, because when you do have, someone who finds you on TikTok and they go to your Instagram, like, if
Mhm.
there is a lot of crossover and they're seeing the same content, like, obviously they're like, okay, well, I can already see it on TikTok. But it's good that it's such a different group of people because they don't really care if it's
Mm.
on the other
Right.
platforms.
But and
Um,
I think it's important too because I think a big mistake a lot of creators make is they try to get their TikTok audience to follow them on Instagram or
yeah.
Instagram to follow them on YouTube. But if you're an Instagram user, you consume your media on Instagram. If you're a TikTok user, you usually just consume on TikTok, and
Yeah.
so all you're getting is these empty followers on another platform that kills your engagement. And so
Right.
I almost never tell people to go follow me somewhere else
Right.
unless it's for a very specific reason because I want I want the growth to be organic on that different
Yeah.
platform. I want those users to be people that prefer going on YouTube to find me there so
Yeah.
that I'm not going to just have a bunch of empty followers not engaging with my stuff.
Right. I mean, that's definitely a great point. And one thing that you kind of like touched on a little bit that I think is really smart is how you were talking about how you make these videos like you're just sitting down, not scripted, like you just get your phone, you're like, "All right, what are we ranting about today?" you
Mhm.
know? And that's so nice because you must feel so I guess you're probably still feeling pressure to create, but like it's probably less pressure than like all right, I have to sit down, I have to script out this big thing, I need to like clean this area out so I can like do my video here and then like,
Mhm.
it's like this big production essentially. And I think that kind of is one thing that a lot of creators get nervous about is like they don't have the time to do all of this. But I think you're a great example of like you don't need to have crazy highly produced content. Like you can get on there on the fly and again use your personality to really like capture people and obviously that's worked really well for you.
And I think it helps, my training was accidentally perfect for social media, right? I have 20 years
Yeah.
teaching public speaking. I have a background in theater. I have a background in creative writing. I mentioned from touring as a poet. So I have writing, performance, and communication were what I
Yeah.
was using to become a good teacher. And then all of a sudden now I get into social media where I don't have to spend as much time because I spent 20 years preparing for it. So all my time was spent pre getting into this field.
Right, right. Yeah, that is very convenient for sure.
Right.
Now obviously again, like once you implemented these changes and you found like, all right, this is what my audience clearly is liking on these different platforms, like you're really starting to hone in on like how you can be successful on each platform. And then you go viral. You're just like going viral on all of the platforms. Like I remember talking to you like every couple of weeks you'd be like, man, look, I gained another 50,000 followers. And I'm like, what is happening right now? Like, what are you doing? And so I'm curious to know what was that process like of just literally going viral on literally all of these platforms?
I mean, other than it producing unbelievable anxiety of, feeling like all because I think when you start making content, in your mind, it's almost like you're just talking to a friend, or at least in my mind. It was like,
Yeah,
I'm not nobody real is seeing this. These are the fake internet people.
literally. Yeah.
And then when things start going viral, you start realizing, oh, those are the real people seeing this. Or I'll have a friend text me and be like, "Oh, a friend of mine shared your video." I'm like, "That's not how that's supposed to work, right?
This is
This
all
is not
fake.
supposed
What do you
to.
mean?
This is all fake people. This is me talking to my phone by myself in my bedroom." And so as it started happening more consistently, I definitely I almost quit multiple times. Especially when it started happening consistently,
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want it to, my career is teaching. And I didn't want something I said online. And it's not like I said anything super controversial, but I didn't want something I said online to affect my job, my real job.
Right.
And so I was worrying about that, and so I started getting to the point where I was overthinking things.
Yeah.
And I think I went through a period where my content did suffer because of the fact that I was scripting things out in my mind too much. I was like, well, I can't say that. Well, I can't talk about this. I can't do that.
Right.
And eventually I realized, it's it's fine. It's not. It's the less I think about things, the better. Because
Fair.
it's just it is what it is at this point, and either you lean into it or you run from it. And there's only so many times you get these opportunities, and so
Yeah.
I'm leaning into it for now and just hoping for the best.
Just riding the wave, see what
Yeah,
happens. I
for
mean,
sure.
I think with your content too, because you do have so many pieces of content where like you're maybe stitching someone else's opinion, or again, like I love the ones where it's like a quote dating coach where it's just like some
Hmm.
like bro who's giving like the world's worst advice ever. And I'm first of all, I'm like, who are you and why is anyone listening to you?
Right.
But you come in with your opinions, and I'm sure there are people who agree with him. So you're getting all of these comments of people who are like, "You're wrong," So
Hmm.
I feel like, especially because your content is so like opinion heavy, you
Hmm.
must get a lot of trolls. You know, like
Yes. It's hard not to let it get to you. There's a lot of things about because I have bad allergies, and so you can't really tell it on this camera right now. But it looks like I'm crying apparently a lot because I get that comment all the time.
right.
Things about your weight. If my daughter gets cut my face by scratching me or something, like I'm a toddler, then I'm getting 20 comments about that. If it definitely it's hard not to focus on those too much. The beautiful thing is once you get because I block quickly. I don't care. I have
Same.
thousands upon thousands of people blocked. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
And I don't really mind it if they're talking to me, but the second I see them attacking one of my followers, it's just insta block. I don't care about
Yeah.
it. As a result, I have really tight communities, I think, on all three platforms already that will kind of police that content themselves, so I don't
Right.
have to worry about it as much as I didn't originally. And the downvoting comments, so they're stuck at the bottom, is always kind of nice too.
That's right.
My
Yeah.
I started making a rule for myself. It's like a loose rule where I will read comments for the first few hours and then just try not to look at it again once it starts going
Yeah.
to the outstretches of the internet, it gets dark quickly. And oop,
Honestly. Wow,
there we go. Sorry
how
about
weird is
that.
it that you literally just
Right.
said that and then the light goes off?
That's perfect.
Creepy. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, it's definitely the internet again, like it's just kind of a scary place to be sometimes. So I honestly
Mhm.
applaud you for putting your real opinion out there and like saying it all and not leaving anything on the table because people are
Well,
crazy.
the opposite side of that though is I probably get 300 DMs and emails a day from random, fans or followers or
Yeah.
whatever term that are just so beautiful. I'm brought to tears constantly. Maybe that's why I look like I'm crying. Maybe it's not my allergies,
You really are
but
just crying all day.
I'm just sobbing all day in my room. But it happens because there will be people that will talk
Yeah.
about. I don't want to get too specific because I don't want to ruin the confidence of that DM they sent me, but
Yeah.
about things that I had no idea that my story could provide them, the healing and trauma recovery and just hope. And so they counter the negativity tenfold, right? And that's the positive, right? That's the thing that made me decide not to quit or continue keeps bringing me back when I decide I'm
Right.
done with that stuff. And that's the good part that I don't think you hear about it as much because it's so easy for us to focus on the terrible. And who am I responding to? And I probably should do the opposite. Who do I respond to in my video responses?
Yeah.
To the bad people, to the mean people. And it's because I'm like, no, I can't let that stand. I have
Right,
to
right.
respond to that. But I do think maybe we should spend more time, bringing up and talking about the positive parts because you don't hear
Yeah.
about that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great point. I know for me personally, I feel the same way. There are plenty of days, mostly a couple times a week, where I'm just like,
Mm,
I'm done. I quit. I don't know
yeah.
why I do this. And then I like get a message from someone. They're like, "Oh my god, you put out this video and it helped me so much." And I'm like, "Oh, fine, I'll stay." And
Yeah. If you
so
if you insist.
fine, alright. So, that community, having those people
Mhm,
that you really are making a difference to, I think is really important, and I think for me, that helps when I'm thinking about engagement as well, like, if I'm like,
mhm,
"Oh, my engagement sucks, I only got 200 likes on this," and it's like, "Well, that's
mhm,
200 people that, like, I could actually be making a difference in their day, making a difference in their life," and, like, that means something, that is something. Yes, it's lower than
mhm.
maybe I'm used to on some pieces of content, but I think it's still valuable at the end of the day. It's more of like a mindset shift.
And that's been, I think, one of the positives about just about how performance wise too, about being on multiple platforms. And technically, I'm also on Facebook and Pinterest. I
Yeah.
just don't focus on those as much. But it's that a content that I would absolutely judge myself as when I was only on TikTok when a video would just do terribly. I'm like, well, I'm the worst. I'm
I
just
suck.
not funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say, why am I doing this?
Yep.
That was embarrassing. And then when I started on Instagram, I'd have certain videos that just unbelievably bombed that get millions of views, and they're like, oh, okay, apparently it's the algorithm is not a judge on my character, but it's hard not to go down that
Yeah.
path, right? Where you're just constantly making your self-worth about how many likes or views your video is getting.
Yeah. It's hard to avoid. I think it never stops. Like, you can never completely turn it off, mentally,
Mhm.
but I think you get better at like dealing with it, or like flipping the switch to be like, but look at all the positives as you
Right.
do this longer and longer, which is definitely very, helpful, obviously. So with you being on all of these different platforms, like you said that you've kind of developed different strategies for different platforms. If you had to give people like your top tip for each of the main platforms that you're on, what would they be?
Mhm. Well, first off, I think I would say the order that I moved from platform to platform was perfect, and I would recommend that to everybody. Like, start on TikTok
Yeah.
and just figure out what you're doing. Figure out how to make videos, how to interact with the audience, how to make videos that kind of capture who you are. Then move to Instagram, figure out how to build a community, figure out how to interact with people in that regard. And then once you know who you are as a creator, even though started off this whole interview saying that I still don't really know what my thing is,
You're a
but I still
creator.
know I know what I am. I know roughly what I am. Then move to YouTube and kind of expand on there. I think if I were to give very site specific things, I think with TikTok, it's just a numbers game. I have no inside information, but I'm positive that suppression is built into their algorithm, where you'll go on kind of waves of ups and downs,
Yeah.
and it's hard not to burn out and stop posting when you're in one of the down cycles with it, but you just got to keep on pushing through it. And the more you post, the more the shorter those ups and downs get, and
Yeah.
it becomes a little more consistent. But they're just going to happen. So I think just post as much as possible, as much as humanly possible, just to get your information out there, your
Yep.
name and your voice out there. I think Instagram is still a lot more about curating a very specific like higher quality content.
Yeah.
What I usually will do, and luckily I already had like 700 videos when I started on Instagram, I'd
Right.
already had all that to choose from. I just post one video a day, and it's something that I know that I'm proud of, that I know my community will like,
Right.
and that I think will do well. And so that way they're just getting the hits. And the stories is where I just go all over the place. That's where I will post random stuff or even bad
Yeah.
TikToks. But I think Instagram is important, that people want to go to your page and just kind of see the top stuff. They
Yeah.
want to see exactly who you are, or exactly the niche you are, or whatever it is, so that they can immediately know kind of what you're doing with that.
Right. And
And
how
I
about
think
YouTube?
YouTube,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, YouTube's a combo of both. I think Shorts is very similar to TikTok in that regard. You just
Mhm.
want to, it's a numbers game. And I think people get overwhelmed because they see the new creator program in there is either 10 million views to get that. But I think they wouldn't have said 10 million views unless they thought it was roughly equivalent to the 4,000 hours for long form, which seems less imposing.
Yeah.
So their metrics are telling you that that is attainable, right?
Right. That's a
And
good
so
point.
I think it takes a while though. I posted for 3.5 months on YouTube, where my average video was getting 50 views,
Yeah.
if that. And then finally you get a video that breaks through, and I think that's their algorithms waiting for that one video that can kind of hone
Right.
in on who your audience is. And then now all of a sudden it's the same as the other ones.
Yeah.
But I think you don't have to post long form on YouTube, but I still think the expectation is that when someone goes to your page on YouTube, they see something that looks, with the thumbnails and
Right.
the titles, and it looks like a professional. Because I think people go to TikTok to meet you,
Yeah.
and they go to YouTube to see your talent. right? They want to see your thing, something that's impressive about you
Right.
on YouTube. Whereas TikTok, they just want to meet you as a person,
Yeah.
and
And
Instagram's kind of in between.
yeah, exactly. I think one
Mhm,
thing that is really interesting that you do, when I hear long form content, I think like like 10-minute videos
right.
plus. But it's interesting you were saying like some of your long form
Hmm.
content's like 2 to 3 minutes of you ranting. You know? Like
Hmm.
that's really awesome because I think 2 to 3 minutes is very attainable. It's really like
Hmm.
that could be very sustainable. It sounds like a really big thing to like, oh, I'm going to be a YouTuber, like I'm going to have to produce all these videos, but like realistically, you could like use your computer webcam, talk for a
Hmm.
few minutes, and hit post on it. So I think that's actually really awesome that you're not pressuring yourself to have 20-minute long videos. I mean, you
Right,
could,
and
but
YouTube, yeah, YouTube posted something recently, a stat, or someone posted it that said 75% of YouTube content is consumed through your phone. Also, so I still, I most of my long content is still in portrait mode. I don't
yeah.
even worry about making it look
Oh,
like
yeah.
something for your TV. I have plans in place that I'm going to eventually start doing.
Yeah.
But I kind of just, I figure people are following me for my shorts, so they already have they're holding their phone that way. If they go to my page and click on one of my videos, boom, it just pops up. It formats it automatically that way, anyways. So I
Okay.
don't have to really reinvent the wheel for my page. I can just kind of give them more of the reason they followed me.
Right. Ooh, I love that. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's a great tip. It literally makes it even easier. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're checking off everyone's excuses as to why they're not on YouTube
Well,
creating
and that's
long
why
form
yeah,
content.
I avoided YouTube for a long time
Because
because of
everyone
that. I was like,
does.
I don't, yeah, it was like I can't do that. I can't do
Yep.
these professional looking, full on full screen video
Yeah.
setups. The whole reason I'm doing this is because I can just sit in my car and record. But yeah, but it's I don't. I think because of TikTok, the way that we consume media has changed for at least the foreseeable future, where you don't necessarily have to do that. People
Yeah.
still appreciate. There's an audience for it,
Of
but you don't
course.
have to do that.
Yeah, I think really the key at this point to long-term success as a creator is it has to be sustainable because
Mhm,
we're expected to create so much content in so many different places, all times of day, all different topics. You know, like we have a lot of
mhm,
expectations on us and how are you not going to burn out if you are trying to like create the most highly produced YouTube video and then 3 shorts a day and then 3 TikTok highly produced TikTok. Like it's so much
mhm.
content. It has to be sustainable. I know I was working with one of my students, she's a fashion creator, and she had a really successful TikTok where she was doing like a try on, she showed this outfit and everyone loved it. It blew up and whatever. And she's like, man, like I'm gonna have to record so many outfit videos now. Like, she was kind of freaking out because she was like, do you know how much work that one was? Like, do you know how many like pieces of clothing I had to clean from my room after that? And that's just one video. And again, if we're supposed to be posting as much as we can, she was like, I
Mhm.
don't know what I'm gonna do. And I was like, well, then, unfortunately, you can't do 3 of those a day every
Right.
single day. It has to be something that's sustainable. So, what she started doing instead was she would do these videos where she would like find weird things on retailers' websites, like really like ugly clothes or like crazy
Mhm.
things, like I don't know, weird clothes and stuff. And she would show like a screen recording of them and she would like, talk about what this piece was and like have a whole, conversation about it. And she could bust those videos out 3 to 5 a day. And then they started blowing up. And I was like, see, it's so
Mhm.
sustainable for you. You have a type of video that works really well for you, just like you do, where you have this, you can sit in your car and just talk to
Mhm.
your camera and record a video. It takes so little effort realistically compared to a highly produced video and you don't feel like, oh man, I have to like, oh, create all my videos today and it's like a big thing because then it becomes a chore and then you're miserable.
Mhm. Well, and that's why I always say this, like, if you start on TikTok and don't let yourself don't and even if you have one that blows up,
Yeah.
just keep on doing a bunch of different stuff
Yeah.
until you figure out what are your 3 or 4 things you can do. Because the videos I do where I break down kinda line by line
Yeah.
some of these, people, those take longer, right? Because it has to fit a certain way, it has to look a certain way,
Yeah.
and so I don't do those every day, but, but I have other stuff that people follow me for, so as long as you're giving your audience something, like you said, staying consistent,
Yeah.
usually you're gonna be fine.
Yeah, I think TikTok is such a great place to experiment like that
Mhm,
because TikTok is like, I don't know. I care about what I post on TikTok, but at the same time, like I really don't. I'm
No.
just like, this video sucks. I look so horrible in it. I don't care. Because again, it's the
Hmm.
fake internet of TikTok. Who cares? And so it's so different on Instagram. Again, like Instagram feels like it has to be a little more curated, a little bit more like I want to present myself with my hair and makeup done always
Hmm.
and this kind of stuff. So TikTok is a great place to experiment. And I can't
Yeah.
believe that there are still people today who are like, I don't think I'm going to get on TikTok. I'm like, what are you doing?
It's the unknown though. It's any platform you're not on
Yeah.
seems intimidating until you do it. YouTube, that was my big one for you. You know, I was a
Yeah.
year and a half into doing content where I was like, fine, I'll do YouTube, I'll try it out. And now I'm like, oh, I'm just basically doing what I do on the other apps with some little tweaks
Yeah.
and it's fine.
Yeah, I will say I even go through the same thing with trying to find these ways to make my content more sustainable. So I had a video producer who was like making these beautiful YouTube videos for me. And they were like 10 to 15-minute long videos, more like traditional YouTube style, what you'd expect. And I was paying him 70, $80 a week to create these videos for me, which in all reality is pretty fair for
Yep,
producing a whole video. But I
absolutely.
wasn't making any money from YouTube. And so I was like, just, burning cash and burning cash. And eventually I got to the point where I was like, okay, it's taking a really long time for me to script these videos, record these videos, a lot of money to pay him, get them uploaded, all of these things. And that's when I kind of realized like this isn't sustainable for me to do every week. So I still want to be on YouTube. So I tried to kind of figure out like, okay, what's something that I could be more consistent with? And so in 2023, we're posting our podcast on there. It's content that's
Mhm,
already made. Like we're right here, we're recording. And so being able to kind of like find a way to be consistent to my audience there, but also still give them like the same value and still save me money, save me time, all of
mhm.
these things. It's a trial and error process. You have to go through the trial and error.
And because consistency doesn't have to mean every day, right? And if you're posting one
Yes.
long podcast, even bi-weekly, then people know that's what they're expecting. There's
Yeah.
people that have huge YouTube channels that post once a month even, but they know what they're getting because they have
Right.
very specific, it's staying consistent with what the expectations you set.
Yeah, I love that you
Mhm,
said that. That's one of my favorite things to tell people. Consistency doesn't mean frequency. You hear
mhm.
consistently and you automatically think, okay, like in order for me to be consistent, I have to do this thing every day.
Mhm.
That's just not
And
the
you can
case.
take time off too. I've taken weeks off of TikTok, of Instagram, just
Yeah.
for my own mental health or my family,
Yeah.
and it didn't hurt me. And I'm still doing just fine with the numbers. I think people
Yeah.
are terrified of all the things we hear online. You can't take a day off. You can't
Mhm.
do this. You can't do that. When in reality, we're just making up these things. And then if something matches up with it, we're like, see, I told you. I told you they were right. So I
Right.
joined the creator fund and everything, or I quit the creator fund
Now my
and my
views are
my views
higher.
went up.
Yep.
But there's 100, there's 1,000 people or 10,000 people that did the exact same thing and nothing changed. But we hear
Exactly.
about the person that matches what we want to hear. So I mean, if you stay consistent, you make good content that matches up with who you are. You're going to have that long term success. But you also have to be okay with having dry periods too, where just nothing hits
Yep.
because that's going to happen.
Absolutely. Not every post is going to be your best post
Hmm.
ever. That is a fact. I was
Especially even ones you think are like, this is the best thing I've ever
literally.
made. And it hurts so bad to see
Yep.
it just flounder. But that's what it is. That's social media.
Yeah. It's always the post where I like work so hard and
Mhm.
like spend the most time and money that don't perform well and I'm just like,
Oh yeah.
okay, all right. I learned my lesson. It's fine. I'll do my worst job ever from now on. It's funny. I was just about to ask you what's your kind of overall like if you had to give someone advice, but it sounds like you kind of just gave that.
Right.
Be consistent, be yourself, find what works best for you and stick to it.
Yeah, and that's really all it comes down to, I think. And I think allowing yourself to time to grow too. I think we are
Yes.
so uh inundated with these stories of people that just went viral
Oh,
and now their life has changed and they're rich, but you have to treat it like a business.
yeah.
If you want to do this long term, where most businesses don't make profit for years.
Mhm.
And I think we don't want to be the rule, we want to be the exception, but just because you're not the exception doesn't mean you're not going to have some amazing success later on.
Patience, my friend,
Hmm.
patience. I
Absolutely.
love it. Well, thank you so much. This was such an awesome conversation. I hope everyone listening right now is like shaking their head. Yes, yes. All right. I got it. I'm ready. And that you got some good nuggets of information. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And we will see you guys again next week.